Hey guys, as you know, I built my business with paid ads, namely Google paid ads, as there was no Facebook back then when I started this stuff, at least with the paid stuff. And everything came to me via paid methods. But this gentleman I'm going to bring on as introduce you to is someone I've met personally. He's I got utmost respect for. He built his business 100% organic. And it's all about through personal branding and traditional branding and all of that good stuff. And he's going to give us some cool tips on how to do that. So without further ado, enjoy the show.
Hello, and welcome to Marketing Solutions for Local Businesses, the podcast where you will discover all the latest and greatest digital marketing tools, tips, and strategies you will need to implement in order to stay ahead of your competition. If you are not getting the results you are looking for from your digital marketing efforts, this is the podcast for you. And now, here's the host of our show, the local business guy himself, Frank Deming.
Hello, everyone. This is Frank Deming, the local business guy, and welcome to another episode of Marketing Solutions for Local Businesses. Happy Wednesday. Happy hump day, everyone. I hope you guys are having a rockin' week thus far. Today, I have the privilege of interviewing the SEO king of the whole Maryland, Bethesda, DC market area. This guy brings it. I had the privilege of actually meeting him face to face when I used to live in the DC area. I don't know if you remember that, but we had lunch one day. But anyway, without further ado, I am bringing on the great Brian Lobig. Welcome to the show, Brian.
Thank you very much. I would like to thank the Academy for this opportunity to speak to your audience.
Love it. So today's topic is we're going to talk about personal branding, and I think you're like the best person I know that can then speak to that. But before we get to all of that, I know the audience doesn't know who you are. Kind of gave him a little indication in the pre-intro there. But who's Brian, and who are you, and what do you do?
Well, Brian Lobig, my last name is of a German origin. Awesome. I'm originally from the German state of Wisconsin. Lots of Germans in Wisconsin. You can't see this on the air, but I'm wearing a Harley Davidson T-shirt. Harley Davidson is Milwaukee, Wisconsin is the home of Harley Davidson.
That is true.
So I got my kind of start there. Grew up in northern Wisconsin. Of course, I have to be a Packers fan. If you grew up in Wisconsin, you're kind of by default Packers fan. Or they kick you out and send you to Iowa. So I went to school there. I got my master's degree from Marquette University. We call ourselves the Harvard of the Midwest, Marquette University, where Dwayne Wade went to.
That's where Dwayne Wade went to. Yeah.
Both of my wife and I went to Marquette University. She continues with her education though. She became an MD, and now she's going back to school for even more stuff. But that's kind of how I got my start. Working in nonprofits originally. I was my first life. I was an alcohol and drug counselor. So I got a psychology. Yeah, I got a psychology. Did I ever tell you this?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
awesome.
That's my degree from Marquette University. My first degree, my bachelor's, is in psychology, and I thought I was going to be a psychologist or a counselor or something. And so my first job out of college, my first professional job, was as a counselor at a women's halfway house for Lutheran Social Services of Wisconsin and Upper Michigan, the largest nonprofit in the state of Wisconsin, multi-million-dollar organization.
Interesting.
And I kind of worked my way up through the ranks. This is kind of my origin story of how I got into digital marketing.
Yeah, go ahead.
And so I started working for Lutheran Social Services and halfway houses, and then I went back to school and got certified as an alcohol and drug counselor, and I started working with correctional treatment populations actually. So my specialty was working with offenders on probation or parole who are drug and alcohol addicted. And so there's a special kind of a process and approach to treating those folks from a criminal personality kind of perspective. We call it criminal thinking therapy. I actually have a website called criminalthinking.net that I continue to promote and to provide free resources to people who are working with that population. And that was actually my entree into web design. because that was way back in the mid 90s, back when Al Gore created the internet. And
yeah, I remember
that. I built that website as a way to kind of provide, experiment. So I went back to school, got my master's degree from Marquette, and it's a dual degree in nonprofits as well as information systems. So that's kind of when I got into the web design, HTML. I graduated in 97, and I actually built Marquette University's first executive MBA website as a class project.
Awesome.
And that's when I knew I wanted to do this web thing. So I was still I kind of worked my way up in the social service field, I eventually became a director of correctional treatment programs in southeastern Wisconsin. And then when I got my master's degree, another company in Philadelphia hired me. My wife and I flew to Philadelphia, and I became quality, vice president of quality improvement for a large regional nonprofit. But I've always had my hands in information systems and data and technology. I always built a website for every organization that I worked with. I built their website or managed it because I just loved it. And so I've always had it as like a little side thing, a little side hustle, doing this. And so when my wife went into medical school in Virginia, we moved to Virginia. She was at VCU, and that was around 2008, 2010, when the big economic, bubble burst.
Yep, 2008.
I laid people off. I got laid off from my chief operating officer job with Lutheran Family Services of Virginia. And we prayed about it, and we're like, I think I'll just do this web thing full time. You're going to make the money anyway as the doctor in the family, and I'll just, I'll follow you around. I can do web design from anywhere. So she got stationed up here in at Walter Reed. She's the Army doctor.
Okay.
And that's what brought us to the DC area. That was like 2010, 2012. And then I started my web design business basically. And so that's kind of how I got into this. The way I grew this into an agency, though, that was just like a solo developer at that time, making websites on the side. My first big client was Volvo of Central Virginia. Multiple locations. That was a great experience.
That's a big client.
They let me do everything. They were just like, we don't do any of this social media stuff. You can just, we'll give you an office and we'll give you a salary. You can come in here whenever you want, and you can manage it all for us. So I managed a couple websites, like 12 social media properties. I was even fixing computers because they thought web design is the same as computer support. Yeah.
Yeah, I get that a lot too. Yeah.
I was doing a little computer support on the side and cleaning stuff off of people's computers. Where was I going with that? I was like, so then eventually, when we moved to the DC area, that's when my business took off, and I joined a local networking group that you and I are familiar with, BNI.
Yes.
I knew nobody up here, right? Like, I'm not from this area. I'm from Wisconsin. And so I was like, I need to connect with people, and so I was like, Chamber of Commerce maybe, but I was watching a webinar, and they mentioned BNI.com, Business Networking International. And so I went online during the webinar and looked for the chapter closest to me. There was one 3 miles away in Bethesda. I invited myself, and that first meeting was so inspirational to me. I put my application in immediately.
Right away.
And it just so happened that the web designer in the chapter, it was a large chapter, it was like 30 plus people. The web designer had just left the group. So I took that as a sign from God.
There you go.
That I need to join, that this is a great opportunity. So I've grown my business from a solo web developer, like freelancer, to a marketing agency with 15 people working for me. And I've grown every year since.
Outstanding, man. That's an awesome story, man. Thanks for sharing that. So you've been in business. I mean, I know you did the web thing for Volvo and everything, but in business, you've been in business, that's 10 years, right?
Yeah, that's about right.
So it's 2012.
Yep, as Lobig Inc. LLC since like 2020.
So 10 years. That's awesome, man. That's a great story. So, what about so you said you've been growing ever since, and that's great because, you had to, here's the thing that I learned about business is you can get everything right and have the wrong mindset and it's not going to work. But the second that you have the right mindset, you could be doing everything wrong and it'll still work. So that story proves it. So what has been the key to business growth, say, during this pandemic for you? Because you said you've been growing. So what's the biggest key in that growth, even during the pandemic?
I think it's really doubling down on your strengths. I believe in that kind of strength. Have you heard of that book, Strength Finder?
Yeah, Strength Finder. Yeah.
So that concept behind there is that don't work on your weaknesses, like double down on your strengths. Like figure out what you do really well and do more of that. Figure out what you don't do well and outsource that or have somebody else do it. Right.
Yeah.
I've lived and breathed that kind of philosophy. Like I don't, it takes me way too long to write a blog. So what I'll do is I'll jot down some ideas and I'll have my blog writing team build it out, flesh it out in very quickly. And then I can just do minor edits and then it gets published quick. Social media, again, even my social media stuff, I'll still tweet, on my own Twitter profile, I manage my own Instagram, but I have, my team really helps support all those different kind of things I'm doing, and they develop the content and I can just kind of look it over. The other thing is like this 50% of my income is you should know where your income's coming from, right? As a business owner, like where 100%. Is your so more than 50% of my business income is coming from SEO, search engine optimization services. And so taking that in mind, I'm like, how do I, instead of shoring up the stuff I'm weak at, I'm not as, versed in, like Facebook advertising, for example. I still do that. I still do Facebook advertising, but I wouldn't consider myself the region's expert in Facebook ads. It's such a changing, dynamic with all the rules changing. They keep eliminating ways that you can target people because of rules and legislation. And so I'm like, well, I've really doubled down on SEO. And so half my team is like, SEO experts. We all we're continually attending conferences, listening to your podcast on best practice strategies, what works out there, and really gone in on that really hard.
Yeah, doubling down is awesome. I like that. I've done the Strength Finder test assessment that they have. I do that in Colby when I hire people on my team. If they're not keen on that whole thing, then you're not going to be, because you got to beat the company culture. You know what I mean? Speaking
of tests, like one of the things that we've started doing when we onboard new SEO specialists, we give them like a little test, and it's kind of a left brain, right brain, mind kind of thing, because we found that when I always have one or two interns working with us throughout the year. So we might have 3 or 4 interns from universities or other places. We're just bringing on a new intern from Bowie State University. Awesome. And so we kind of give them a full experience of all the different things in a marketing agency. Have them help shadow our web developers, have them shadow an SEO specialist, have them work on a social media campaign. We do a lot of free services. We do a lot of free services for nonprofits, as pro bono services. Like, for example, we manage the Maryland Black Chamber of Commerce's website. And so it gives me the opportunity to have like interns work on a real, sizable, important organization, and work on their stuff, because we're doing it pro bono. So they give us a lot of leeway to kind of help, experiment and do things, creatively on their platforms. Right. I'm on the board of several nonprofits. And so by having that experience, we get a good feel for, what do you really like doing? What works for you? Like, do you like the website stuff better? Are you better with SEO? We have a little assessment test we give them that tells us whether how creative they are, the left brain, right brain kind of concept of more analytical versus more creative. We found that our best SEO managers have a very balanced score on that, where they're very into math kind of things, but they also have a really high creative side to themselves. And the ones that do really well on SEO are kind of balanced with that way. We have my two lead SEO managers are musicians, as well as like one is a musician and a biotech kind of person. The other one is an actual math teacher.
Outstanding.
Who'll be coming on full time in the spring.
Outstanding. Yeah, that's you doing that methodically. I'm hoping you guys understand what what he's doing here. Yes, he's telling us his process and everything, but look at how meticulous and methodical it is when he's coming down to working with his brand, with your culture. That's awesome. I mean, I do the same thing with Stefan and Colby, but that's very interesting how you do it there, Brian. So kudos to you, man. That's awesome. That's why you got some success in 10 years, man. And, you know, and I hope you get more in the next 20, 15, 30, 50, 50 years more to come, man. And,
pass it out to the kids.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. All right. So let's get into the topic at hand here. We want to talk about personal branding. First of all, let's define it. What is personal branding? What, according to Brian Lobig, what is personal branding?
Personal branding is really creating more visibility of yourself as a person. Like you have a business brand, you know, you've got your logo, you have your brand elements, you have, and really a brand, I like the definition of a brand is not just those graphical things, but it's really like, what do people say about you when you're not there? You know, what comes to mind when people think of your business? And that's true for a person as well as it is for a business. Like when somebody says, you know, Frank Deming, they're going to get an image in their mind. They're probably going to think of somebody who does a podcast, has great radio voice. They're going to be thinking of your business marketing solutions for small business. And so those things, those kind of feelings that come to mind, those digital experiences, maybe processes come to mind, maybe SEO comes to mind when somebody thinks about those things. That's kind of your brand. And so your personal brand, I'm seeing is more connected to you as the person as opposed to the business.
Right.
And then the twist on it is I like to talk about personal branding SEO. So how to get your own personal brand more visible on the internet.
There you go. There you go. That's a good analogy, definition of it. So let's talk about that though. So how do you differentiate, you know, say Lobig Inc. from Brian Lobig?
My business brand, like some personal brands, are very closely related. However, because I have a staff, I have a team, it's beyond me. So my staff members actually are great brand representatives. You know, they are me on the, you know, out there in the world. One of the things that I've doubled down on is my involvement in BNI. So I've started putting my own team members in BNI chapters around the country. So my lead Wix web developer represents Lobig Inc. on the West Coast. Her name is not Lobig. Her name is Martinez.
Right.
And so, however, when people interact with her, the experience they have with her is representing the brand of Lobig Inc. And so, and the whole team is very, you know, it comes from the leadership. You know what I mean? It's like how you interact with them is how they're going to interact with others. If I'm very, if I don't have any problems with mistakes, like if they make a mistake and I'm not criticizing them, they're going to be the same way. If I treat my customers, you know, who don't pay on time, the way I treat them is the way that they learn to treat, you know, the clients that they're interacting with.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Good stuff. So we going back to personal branding and SEO. I just out of curiosity, how does it differ from, say, you know, traditional SEO?
Oh, good question. So personal branding SEO, well, traditional SEO is like trying to get your website on page one of Google. Personal branding SEO is getting your name more visible out there on the internet, basically. And so, there's a really strategic way to do that. There's a very methodical way you can get your own personal brand out there. And you can do that even if you don't own your company. You can do that I do personal branding SEO for nonprofit leaders, for example. Like the name of the nonprofit is not them, you know, it's whatever the nonprofit is. But they can really influence and improve the visibility of their business by increasing their personal brand. And if all their staff, if they really support their staff on developing their own personal brands, it's a win-win. Now, a lot of businesses get a little scared of that because if they're building their brand, they're going to be well-known and they're going to have all their own connections. You know, they might be, you know, swept away by a competitor or something. I've had some of my best people leave and work for other companies. I just had one of my lead project managers just got hired by Amazon internally to do marketing internally for Amazon. I see that as a kudos to what he had experienced with us. And I've created now a great relationship with somebody who works in Amazon headquarters across the bridge in Northern Virginia that I have direct, friendly access to, because he grew up, he cut his marketing teeth through my organization for the last 3 years. And so that's, and he built a very strong personal brand, while he was with Low Big Inc.
Well, Low Big, yeah.
He created a great LinkedIn profile. He started putting into practice the tools he used for clients on his own personal brand, developing a great social media presence, being active on social media, interacting with clients through his social media. I actually let my team members connect with clients on their LinkedIn profiles. I'm very kind of open on that perspective. Like if you go to my about page on my website, you'll see all my team members' names there. You'll see their links to their LinkedIn pages, and clients can go reach out to them directly and connect with them.
Yeah, gotcha.
The steps you can take to we actually do some. I don't really do a lot of paid training on this. I do a lot of free training and presentations on how to increase your personal brand for SEO.
Awesome.
Is like you start with a personal branding website. And so that could be like about.me. You're familiar with that platform?
Oh, yeah. About.me. Yes.
There's several
people still use that?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know that.
It's still around. Yeah. And so I have a web page on there. And actually, one of the reasons I like it, it's basically a free one-page website that has all your information on there. They kind of market it as the one place on the internet where you can tie all the different things you do together on one web page. Because usually your website, if you're an entrepreneur or something, is going to be your business website, and you're just talking about business stuff mostly on there. You might have a personal Facebook page, you might have a Twitter account, and so the personal branding webpage like about.me you can tie it all together. You can talk about everything you do, from all the different things you do in your life. You might be a publisher of a book. You might have another website, a blog website about something unrelated to your business. You can link all your social media in there. And so I'd like to start with that. Most of the personal branding SEO stuff is really just using the free resources that are available on the internet. So about.me is free unless you can actually connect it to a domain. Like you could buy, frankdeming.com and then have it, redirected to about.me. And then social media, step 2 is go to your social media, make sure those are well built out. Start developing directories. That's directories related to your business, your consulting, is a great free way to build out content on the internet. Especially, there's 3 types of directories. There's niche, national, and local directories. And some of those local directories get the best visibility. Like, for example, nextdoor.com.
Yeah.
It's a great free local directory, high visibility. Somebody asks, about a dog, you're going to get 20 responses. Somebody asks about what's the best restaurant locally, you're going to get 50 responses. It's a very highly engaged community in there. And so the way you leverage nextdoor.com for your personal brand is you go in there and you claim your little profile, add a headshot, put a little bio about yourself. Most people don't do this. Most people just create the account and then just interact. Yeah. So nobody sees your headshot, nobody sees a bio, nobody sees any links to anywhere. And so with all these directories, it's just a huge lost opportunity. And for businesses as well, a lot of businesses will create these directories or they get directories created in their name. Like Yelp will create one for you, even if you don't create it yourself, right? And so if you don't claim and optimize it, there's going to be miscellaneous, random, incorrect things about you on the internet. So you can actually be proactive, go in there and claim it. Or if it's your personal brand, you're going and have to create it for yourself.
Correct.
And then just build it out. And so use SEO best practices, consistent NAP information across the internet, name, address, and phone number, consistent headshot across all the platforms. If you do that on some of these top directories on the internet, on your social media, use that same headshot across all these things, you're really building out a strong profile. People be like, I know you from somewhere. I get this all the time. I've seen your face somewhere, because you're showing up everywhere, especially if you're local, if you interact with people locally. Chambers of Commerce are a great business network to join. Those chambers of commerce have some of the best SEO value of any websites. Because and so joining I've got clients that's their SEO strategy. It's very interesting. I have a couple of clients that is their SEO strategy. They just joined a dozen chambers of commerce. And I've had one client that came to me just recently, and that they had a brand new website. they literally joined a dozen chambers of commerce. That was the only SEO they did. They didn't even do on-page SEO. They just joined a bunch of chambers of commerce. And the authority score for their website, because they've linked everything back to the website, was actually really strong. I was amazed. Like that was awesome. All those backlinks, strong backlinks from chambers of commerce, local, regional chambers of commerce. And so that's another part of the personal branding SEO.
That's awesome. Hey guys, I hope you guys are enjoying the content that our guest is bringing you today. Incidentally, speaking of the guests, if you would like to be a guest on this show, if there's something that you would like to promote when it comes to digital marketing or anything within your business that you would like to promote, give us a call at 888-416-7752 or simply send us an email at info@lbmsllc.com. Someone from my office will then send you the podcast intake form and we will schedule you on the show. So if that's something you would like to do, go ahead and do that and I'll put you on the show. For now, enjoy the rest of the show. It's so funny going back to next door. I have a funny story. I have a client of mine who's a handyman.
Oh, yeah.
And initially when we first talked, we started talking about I dabble more on the Facebook ads and the Google ads arena. That's my love. I just love that stuff. But so I was trying to tell him, hey, we could do lead generation for you, and he wasn't really impressed or wasn't really into it. He didn't want to spend that kind of money. I'm like, okay, no problem. So I just gave him this tip and I said, dude, why don't we just do this? Why don't we, so that you walk out of this meeting with some value. I'm going to set you up, because he was kind of new to the area, set you up on Nextdoor. He didn't even know what Nextdoor was. So we sat there in his office. I set it up for Nextdoor or whatever. Long story short, 3 months later, he's calling me. He goes, dude, I want to do some lead generation now. I'm like, what made you change your mind? He goes, you gave me that free thing. I got like 4 calls within the first 2 weeks of handyman stuff. I'm like, oh, okay. And now I want to do some stuff. I was like, okay. Because I was willing to give him something for free. Now he's a client of mine, so it's kind of funny.
and some of those free directories, they have such good organic engagement just all by themselves. Sometimes I recommend clients, they just do the free version. Like a lot of clients on Yelp, you don't want to do the paid version because it's not your it's not your industry, it's not your target market is on there. But build out that free version. I've had a couple attorneys actually that I'm working with on SEO, and they are one of the few attorneys that actually have a Yelp presence. Did I say LinkedIn? I meant Yelp.
Yeah. So, no. You said Yelp.
I said Yelp. Okay, so a couple of attorneys that they've gone all in on Yelp, and not all in like they're doing paid ads on Yelp, but they've gone in there, claimed the profile, made it very detailed, specific, consistent, add a headshot of them as the owner, and they've gotten leads for high-end law services through Yelp because they're one of the few attorneys that actually have a good presence on Yelp.
Yeah, that's another good strategy as well, using Yelp from the free side. Yeah, that's awesome. So out of curiosity, we're in 2022 now, Brian. We're in 2022 now. What is your, well, before I get to that, let me ask you this. Who do you niche? Do you have a particular niche that you work with, or you pretty much market to all small businesses?
As you become a more established business, even if you don't do it intentionally, a lot of times it kind of happens organically. Because you'll find out that you're really good at working with certain types of clients, and you actually like working with certain types of clients, and you don't like working with others.
Yes.
Like I've discovered that, nothing personal, but I shouldn't say that because I do have one of those clients yet.
That's all right.
There's some clients, he's the exception. There's certain clients in industries, they're just very challenging for me to work with. Like every time we have a SEO meeting, I'm re-educating them every single time about everything we've done. And so it gets a little draining for some of those clients.
Yeah, it does.
And so some of the types of clients it hasn't been like intentional. Like I have a strategy for working with therapy clients, for example, but I have we're working with a lot of therapy clients and we're doing very well with them. I think it's partly because I can speak the language. I have a degree in psychology. I've been a counselor. I know what DBT therapy is,
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
Dialectical behavioral therapy. I know. And so once you start working with different kind of, groups of types of businesses, you get pretty good at understanding their needs, what their client needs are, what the, how they make money, what the insurance, there's certain insurance requirements for some of these. And also like, you don't have to teach me as an SEO manager that you can't ask for reviews if you're a therapy agency. You can't go into Google and request your clients, for reviews. It's unethical, actually.
Yes.
It's against the, standards of conduct. And so, so we've gotten really good at working with therapy practices across the country. Because I cut my teeth on dealerships. I'm pretty good with working with dealerships, those kind of things. We've worked with, but SEO, like I've thought about like niching, down into a certain industry, but I really like the idea. You learn so much from across industry. Like I subscribe to Plumber SEO. Have you heard of that? PlumberSEO.com? No. So Josh, what's his name? Josh something, the owner, the CEO, he does a great podcast. They specialize in plumber and HVAC SEO. That's all they do. They're like hyper niche. They will only accept one client in one city because like they want to dedicate all the resources to that one client. I love them. And the stuff I've learned from them, because they're so hyper focused on that industry and like, trucks going out and providing services, and like, how do you leverage the fact that you have people in trucks on the field for an SEO perspective? It's a very specific kind of, strategies you can use for that kind of an industry, that kind of trades industry. But there are learnings that you can apply towards other industries when you're working with multiple industries. You know what I mean? And so I love the opportunity of working with lots of different agencies or different business models, because you can take knowledge from like a plumber SEO that works over there, and then think about how it applies to therapy practice, or think about how it applies to a restaurant, because you're thinking outside of the box at that point. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like, this works for this agency. Well, I wonder if it would work for a restaurant, what I'm doing with the plumbers. You know what I mean? And sometimes it really works. It really provides some opportunities that nobody's thought of. Like if you're just working in restaurant SEO, that's your whole thing. You're not going to be able to kind of pick from all the stuff you've actually have interaction with. So we work with a lot of businesses, but we do have strong representation in certain industries. Long answer to your very short question.
No worries, man. I like it. I like it when the guests come on and I have something to say. One of the hardest things to do is interview someone who gives you yes, no answers. And so I appreciate it, my friend. All right. So going back to my original question, what I was going to ask before that popped into my head, because I want to see if I could help you introduce you to as many people who you want to work with. So aside from that, what is your strategy for growth in 2022? If I may.
Great question. So I actually have one. I haven't had a strategy every year, but this year I do have actual strategy. So I grew last year, and even though, second year of the pandemic, I grew 30% last year. Awesome. I didn't think I was going to grow that much. Like the previous year, the first year, I think I grew 1 or 2%, maybe 3%, something like that. It wasn't significant. I actually thought I was going to lose money the first year of the pandemic. Like my business, like March to April, like when the pandemic hit, I shrunk my clients. I lost 40% of my income, not like 40% of my revenue was dropped that month. I took out a PPP loan because I thought this is going to go south bad. But the next month it picked up, and it's been better ever since because everybody's doing everything online. But so what I learned I literally sit down and think through, where did my business come from? One of the things we do in BNI is like we keep track of all of our referrals, right? Like who's sending us business. And so I do that even when, even outside of BNI, although, 70% of my income is from referrals from BNI at this point. So it's kind of easy to track because we have an app that tracks all your referrals, right? Like, so I have a big, long spreadsheet of like where all those referrals come from. And so I realized, 70% of my income is coming from this referral network. How do if I'm doubling down on the stuff that works, how can I double down on my involvement with BNI? Because I get a lot of business there. And so what I started doing this year, I've started putting my team members in BNI chapters. I got one in the West Coast. I put one in the new Hall of Fame launching chapter in National Harbor, Maryland. They just launched this week with 35 people. And
outstanding.
It was fantastic. And I volunteered to be the launch director of BNI for the region. So I'm one of like 3 launch director team members in Central Maryland, helping kick off and start up new BNI chapters. And it's not a lot of money. It's like, you get a little stipend for each chapter member that joins. The time and money thing is like, I'm probably making $5 an hour or $10 an hour, when it comes down to how much I'm making when a chapter launches because of all the time investment. But I think of it as much bigger. It's not just that little stipend I get to help launch a chapter. It's the visibility connections I'm making with 35 business owners in a new chapter. They see me. I'm literally their leader. You know what I mean? I'm literally teaching them how to build this network and training them on how to find, visitors, how to make connections, how to get the best ROI on their membership. I'm teaching them about advanced LinkedIn strategies to go find and invite people. And they credit me as their launch director with helping them kick off this amazing chapter that, this amazing group that is starting to build their business. And so that's what I love it. So it's like, I'm working with my second chapter now and helping them, helping them launch. So the visibility that I get from that process is amazing. And I'm not selling my services. I'm not like telling them and by the way, I do SEO and you should hire me. I'm not even talking about what I do. They learn because they act eventually, but I'm really just there. It's the giver's gain approach. I'm just there to help them kick off, be a support to them. And I actually decided to put one of my team members in that launching chapter because they're so big already. So we've already gotten probably half a dozen referrals of building websites for them. And they've only been around for a month. Outstanding.
That's brilliant, man. I love that strategy, man. That's a good way of doing it because BNI is I mean, you as long as you're in the right chapter, of course, but BNI is one of the best networking groups to be in because you're in their face weekly, right? You're hearing about you weekly.
You're training them of who you're looking for and how to introduce you. That's the thing. That's the key.
Right. You're training them every time who you're looking for, how to introduce you. And, what I also like about BNI, and this is how I use it. It's funny talking about giver's gain is I look in the room and I say, who can I refer in this room? Like who can I buddy up with and say, oh, you need somebody? I got a guy.
Yes.
And then so when I moved here, I used to live down in the DC area. When I moved here, first thing I did was I joined a BNI chapter, and that's how I started gaining clients here in New Jersey. But other than that, I mean, I usually get clients via SEO, via my own ads and stuff like that. So, but definitely the referrals. It's a lot quicker turnaround when a referral comes to me from BNI.
Yep.
I mean, usually it's within a month we're doing business.
It's a warm introduction. It's there's a book called The Blue Ocean Strategy. Have you heard
Blue
of it?
Ocean. Yep.
Yeah. So BNI is like a blue ocean strategy. It's like a whole new pond with no competition. Like one person per profession, and they're introducing you to their networks. It's like no competition.
No competition. Yeah, it's so funny because there are 2 books that I always love: Blue Ocean and The Purple Cow. Both of them the same concept.
Okay.
Same concept. Well, so your email, your website, I'm going to put a link to your website. It's lowbiginc.com. I'm going to put a link to the in the show notes for you. Do I have your permission to put your LinkedIn information as well on there in the show notes?
Yeah, you can put that in there.
Okay.
The best SEO value is the website address though.
Yeah, exactly. I'll put the website address on there, but I also put your LinkedIn in there as well. Is there anything I did not ask you that you think will benefit the audience?
I would say the one thing with this personal branding SEO process is be incredibly consistent across all of those things you develop. Like use the same headshot, if you're using like an address, use the exact same spelling of the address and phone number, even down to how you spell the phone number, 301-244 instead of or 3001.244. Make it as as consistent as possible. So when some people see you across these profiles, that the internet as well as people themselves will see, this consistent presence all across the internet about who you are.
Yeah, along those same lines, I was educating one of my clients just not too long ago about that. They put second FL in one in one listing, and for the other listing, the second floor. So, and then Google has a different thing like number 2, and I'm like, okay, there's no consistency here.
Right.
Is that really important? Yes, it is.
Yeah, it seems minor. It seems ridiculously like minor and inconsequential, but it really creates that what we call NAP consistency across the internet. So that's like, oh yeah, so this is who this is. This is Brian J. Lobig, across the entire internet.
Yeah, you have no doubt who you're talking to. Well, this has been great, Brian. Thanks for coming on the show and educating my audience. I hope you guys got a lot out of it. I know I did, because this man is a complete genius when it comes to SEO. And now I know he's also a complete genius when it comes to personal branding, which I did not know. So I'm glad he came on to talk about that. I didn't even know he was a Packers fan. I got to talk to you about Aaron Rodgers when we get off the line, because I like him a lot. But anyway, we could talk about that offline. I don't want to bore people. But anyway, this has been Frank Deming, the local business guy, and you've just been blessed by the great Brian Lobig. Until next week, folks, I'll see you next time. Peace out.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Marketing Solutions for Local Businesses, the podcast where you will discover all the latest and greatest digital marketing tools, tips, and strategies you will need to implement in order to stay ahead of your competition. Don't forget, any links that were mentioned during the broadcast will be available to you in the show notes, so be sure to grab them while you have the chance. Incidentally, if you have any topics that you would like for us to discuss on the show, be sure to send an email to the email provided in the show notes, or click the Contact Us link and let us know what topic you would like us to help you with, and we'll be sure to add it to our schedule. If you would like for Frank and his team to look at your digital marketing presence and give you a free evaluation, simply click the Request a Free Consultation link in the show notes to get a hold of them. That being said, until our next episode, make it a successful digital marketing day. Peace out.